Okay, we are going to continue to work on using the pen tool. So here we are in, let's see, the fourth exercise here, the fourth artboard. We are going to work on creating some teardrop shapes or raindrop shapes, whichever way you want to look at it. Might depend on your mood today. Okay, so again, pen tool. For this one, we can have a fill color and no stroke. That way our shape will be filled with the color and we won't have any outline around it. So you can use the color that you used previously or any other. I would stick to a bright color. So if you wanted to do bright blue or red or orange or whatever you want, go ahead. Okay, so what we are going to do now is using our pen tool again, P on the keyboard. That's your keyboard shortcut is P as in Paul or pen. Makes sense, right? Okay, I'm just going to click and release my mouse. So I have that one line up there. Now I'm pulling my cursor down and I'm going to click and hold my mouse button and drag out my handles. Release my mouse, bring it back up to the top till I get that little circle that indicates that I'm completing my path. Let's try that again. Click and release, pull my cursor down, click, holding, drag, release, complete the path. Again, click up here, release, pull the cursor down. I'm going to make a fatter raindrop this time, or teardrop. Click and hold, pull out, release, complete the path. Okay, so again, click, release, pull your cursor down, click and drag out as far as you want, release, pull it up to the top. All right, so go ahead and practice that. Fill this artboard up with your teardrops. Of course, only the ones drawn on the computer, right? No other teardrops. Sorry. Okay, so next up we have an apple with a leaf. And there's my little example. It's not perfect, but it's all right. For this exercise, we are going to work on pressing and holding the Alt key to separate our handles. So we can create the leaf using a similar technique as what we did for their teardrop or our raindrop. So I'm going to click and release, pull out or move my cursor down, click and drag out to make some curve. Now I'm going to press and hold my Alt button to bring my handle up. So notice now I have separated my handles so they're not working together. They're not tied or linked to each other. Okay, release my mouse button, release my Alt key, and come back up and complete the path. Okay, let's try that again. Click and release, drag my cursor, click and drag, press and hold the Alt key, bring up that handle, release the mouse button, release the Alt key, complete the path. Okay, again, click and release, move my cursor, click, holding the mouse button, drag. Now I'm going to press my Alt key, bring up the handle, and I will bring that back up to the top. So you can make your leaf a little bit more symmetrical, or you can make it a little bit fatter on one side and a little bit more linear on the other side. Okay, so go ahead, practice those. Fill up that entire space with a bunch of leaves. And when you've got those done, now let's move on to our apple shape. So I'll just move that one out of the way. Notice I just switched to my selection key and moved that. So now I could move whichever one I wanted to, and I could put it wherever I want. So now let's go ahead and we'll make that sort of apple shape. So again, the pen tool, keyboard shortcut is P as in pen. Okay, so now how do I want to make my circles? I can make them exactly the way I did in my artboard number 3 up there, but it doesn't have to be as regular as that. So it's kind of up to you. I'm just going to click and drag out. I'm holding the shift key right now. Release my mouse, come up directly above that, click and drag out. But instead of making just an egg, sort of a sideways egg shape, I'm going to release my shift key and I'm going to pull that up just a little bit, somewhere around there. Press and hold the Alt key, pull that handle up, release the mouse button, release the Alt key, and complete the path. Click and drag. Okay, so now I have sort of a cross between, I would say, an apple shape and a heart shape. But that is perfectly fine for right now. So I'm going to do the same thing. Click and drag. come up to the top, click and drag, and now I'm going to go downward. Press and hold the Alt key, bring that handle up, click over to complete my path, click and drag. Okay, again, I'll start on the bottom this time, click. I guess I've started on the bottom every time, haven't I? Okay, so click and drag over, release the mouse button, come up to the top, click and drag down into the side, press and hold the Alt key, bring that handle up so they separate, click and drag over here, click and drag out to complete my path. So now I have my sort of apple shape and my leaf, and they are not to scale, are they? So I need to reduce the size of my leaf somewhere along those lines, somewhere like that. And there we go. I've got a nice little apple and a leaf. If I wanted to change the color of this, I could change that to some sort of green color. There we go. Okay, so go ahead, practice making those shapes. So remember to use your Alt key to separate your handles. But again, practice makes perfect. You don't expect to go ahead and make these perfectly on the first try. Okay, so you're going to need to practice quite a bit. And that leads us to our sixth and last little activity here. So in this activity, you're going to sort of put together all of the skills that you've learned throughout these activities. So again, normal pen tool, we want a stroke but no fill. So I'll go with that orangish color again, increase the size of my stroke to 4 points. I will follow the directions and I will start where it tells me to start, even though I don't like following directions normally. But sometimes you have to, right? So I will click and drag out, pulling in the direction that I'm headed. So how far do I pull? About a third of the way towards my next anchor point. So I'm pulling a third of the way. The place where I'm going to set my next anchor point is in that gray circle. So I'll release right there, click in this gray circle, holding my mouse and dragging out a third of the way approximately over towards my next box that I'm going to put my anchor point in, which is right here. Click and drag out. So I'm trying to get that curve that is behind my anchor point, and I'm pretty good with that right there. Now I'm going to press and hold the Alt key, bring that handle up and into the direction that I am going to go in the future. Okay, so this handle needs to get pointed towards my next anchor point, which is in this direction. So I'll release there, both my mouse and my Alt key, click in my box and drag. So I'm not releasing the mouse button right away. I'm pulling it towards my next anchor point. Click and drag out my handle. Press and hold the Alt button and just pull that in just a little bit. Release the mouse button, release the Alt key, click in this box right here and drag out. Whoops. Sorry, my mouse pad was getting in the way. Okay, somewhere around there. Press and hold the Alt key. Bring that handle up in this direction, the direction that I'm headed. Release the mouse button, release the Alt key. Click and drag. Press and hold the Alt key to separate the handles. Release the mouse button, release the Alt key. Click and drag out just to smooth out that last one. And there we go. I'll zoom or I'll pan up just a little bit by pressing and holding the space bar and pulling with my mouse. So it's not perfect, right? My curves are not exactly smooth in all of these spots, but I could go ahead and fix those if I wanted to. But overall, my shape follows the outline pretty well. So go ahead, do that. I would probably try again if I ended up with this, which I did just end up with this. So I think I need to try again. But make sure you keep in mind the direction that you are going in. Where's your next click? How far to pull out those handles? So be aware of all of that as you're creating your shapes. And remember, practice, practice, practice. Like I mentioned, you can't expect to master the pen tool in a half an hour. Okay, this takes quite a bit of practice. I am also going to include in Classroom a link to a game that you can play to practice the pen tool, and that will be super helpful as well. All right, good luck. Let me know if you have questions.